Welcome, welcome everybody to the Bengal Stripe Show, a podcast presented to you by the Love of Ball Network and hosted by Braden over this way, and by Gavin right here. We are two Bengals fanatics looking to bring a fresh light, a fresh opinion into the Cincinnati Bengals media. And I think we can offer a lot here. Braden, what are we gonna kind of do on this show?
Yeah, so we're gonna have some game recaps. So we're gonna break down each game. We're gonna discuss key moments because there's gonna be a lot this year. Standout performances, which we'll get into later this year or later, maybe even in this episode. What results mean for this team's season? We're expecting a big one, aren't we? Player interviews. We're gonna get exclusive insight straight from the players themselves. Hear their thoughts on the game. Their personal journeys. Not everyone does the same, so it's gonna be good to hear from different people and what it's like to be part of this Bengals family that seems to be pretty tight. So we're going to bring some expert analysis. We're going to bring in some analysts and insiders to give us kind of a talk about what's going on with the Bengals, the strategy that they may be doing in free agency or during the season. We're going to give us some fan interactions. Your guys' voice matters. So we'll have a Google form link where we'll feature fan questions and comments that we'll go over eventually, and reactions to games. So we want to hear what you guys think about the Bengals. I mean, we want you guys to be involved just as much as we're involved. So we want to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, we're just the voice of that's being controlled by all you guys. Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to the description, follow us on Spotify, and rate us 5 stars. Helps us out more than you know. And if you're on Spotify, go to YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, share with anyone, grandma, mom, dad, anyone who likes the Bengals. We all love the Bengals here. Otherwise, I don't know why you're watching this. Yeah, we're gonna just be talking about them all season long, all in the off season. We'll keep you guys informed, updated, anything like that, giving our opinions, helping you form yours. In the description, it'll have our Instagram, it'll have a link tree to all of our social medias, and it'll have my podcast For the Lob, which is the host of this network, the Love of Ball podcast. Shameless plug, go follow that out for all things NFL. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about. I kind of want to talk about the current state of the Bengals, right? Who do we think is going to be that X factor next year? If we're rolling, we know this person is going to be rolling and helping out the cause.
Give me our X factors. So my big X factor this year is Logan Wilson. Last year he had a rough patch and not a terrible season, but he's a cover linebacker. I mean, back in the 21 Super Bowl, he was covering Cooper Kupp. Let's mind that. Cooper Kupp, the guy who won the Triple Crown. Yeah, that year. So he's going to be your cover linebacker. He's going to cover those tight ends and slot receivers. He led his NFL career in tackles.
Career high in tackles last year.
So, I mean, that's outrageous for a guy like that. You don't want that guy to have a ton of tackles. That means that your guys in the trenches aren't doing the work. So I think this year we kind of fixed up the trenches, the defensive side trenches, to kind of alleviate some of that pain that Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt went through. I think that's going to help a lot with Logan Wilson's season this year.
Yeah, my X factor is also defensive. It's Sheldon Rankins, kind of a signing that went under the table because we signed someone right after that was Mike Gesicki. It was right before the Mike Gesicki signing, and of course, general fan base loves offense more than defense. So he's gonna get overshadowed. But Sheldon Rankins was pretty solid with the Texans. He was above average D tackle, very good pass rusher, and I think it also got overshadowed because we drafted Chris Jenkins to kind of be that D tackle 1/2, 1A, 1B. The thing is, they're exact opposites. I mean, Sheldon Rankins is a very polished pass rusher, not so much on the run stopping, to where he's got, I don't want to say a thinner frame. This dude's absolutely jacked, but compared to the DJ Readers, the Chris Jones of the world, he's thinner. And so he's more elusive, faster, gets to the quarterback a lot better. But in the run stop, he's not going to be as effective as someone like Chris Jenkins, who's a very polished run stopper. Now, I think if we're rolling Chris Jenkins, I'm going to get them. Their names are so similar. Sheldon Rankins is going to have, at the end of the year, ideally double-digit sacks. If he's playing enough, I think he can get to 10. I think if we are the one seed in the AFC, I think Sheldon Rankins is going to have at least 10 sacks because those sacks are going to be so prominent when he gets them. Trey Anderson's going to have a great year. Sam Hubbard and Chris Jenkins are going to be great in the run stopping. And I think just that situation helps our defense so much. Our secondary got so much improved. Our offense will take care of itself. I think we have one of the best, if not the best, offense in the league. And I think he is such a key factor to that, and I think he's one of the X factors.
Yeah, so I would agree. So I remember it was probably about March-ish, March April-ish when we signed Sheldon. And I remember when my first reaction was, this is a Larry Ogunjobi type signing. We got Larry Ogunjobi, and that felt like a so in that 21 season we had three star defensive tackles. We had DJ, we had BJ, and we had Larry Ogunjobi. I think Larry Ogunjobi's whole job was just to rush the passer. His whole job was just to make havoc in the middle. I think DJ helped with that, but DJ was really just a run stopper. So I think that was the job. And honestly, we had BJ Hill too, who was there to run stop and sometimes get to the passer. But I mean, not their crazy like forte like Sheldon Rankins and Larry Ogunjobi. So I think that's a perfect place to start.
Yeah, we struggled to get pressures last year, even though Trey Hendrickson had all this like second most sacks in the league, I want to say, at
Yeah,
17 and a half.
yeah,
Yeah, we were I want to say I don't know if this is entirely true. I think we were bottom 10 in QB pressures, even with all of those sacks. So it was really him just carrying the load. We want to take that off him as good as a player he is. We want him ready for AFC Championship, Super Bowl, because that's our ceiling. And I think honestly, it's Super Bowl or bust at this point for this team. That we are so skilled. We've been to the Super Bowl. We've been to the AFC Championship in two separate years. At this point, if we don't win the Super Bowl, the season's a failure. And as tough as it is, as tough as a pill that is to swallow, that's the reality. With how much talent and what the expectations are for this team, then I think we can do it. I think we truly can do it.
yeah. I would totally agree. But where I go with that is, who do we point fingers at if that doesn't happen?
Yeah, it really just depends on how the season goes. If we miss the playoffs entirely, you look at coaching. I think that's the first step. If you don't even make the playoffs, if you lose a blowout in the first game against, let's say, the Ravens, you chalk it up to divisional game. I mean, there's not much. You look at who didn't do good. I mean, they'll probably try and blame it on T. Higgins since he's already out halfway out the door. Easy scapegoat. But no, I think if we really miss the playoffs, I think Zach Taylor's on the hot seat. I think he's a great coach, but I think that is the easiest way for a franchise to get out of fans being angry because a
Yeah,
lot of people, if they can't pinpoint what's wrong, they just blame the coach.
yeah, and I think the Bengals, especially with Katie and Elizabeth, taking kind of the reins over from Mike Brown as he goes up in the age category. I mean, he's in his upper 80s now. Um, I think they don't want to recreate the Marvin Lewis era.
Yeah,
Guy would get great teams and make it to the playoffs, like 12 and 4 records, however much it was, and he would lose in the first round. It seemed like every year. It was every year we'd lose in the
was
first
there? I
round.
think it was 6 years in a row.
Yeah. So what? I think they're afraid of that happening again. I think if you have 9 at the helm, whatever you can do to get that guy to the next round is a must.
Yeah, and if it means trading, I don't even know who could we even trade to improve. If it means trading our first round pick to get Stephon Diggs for a year, because he's a free agent next year actually. That because the Texans restructured his contract and made him a free agent. If it means trading for I don't know Christian Wilkins, if it means sacrificing our future to win now, I'd say it's worth it based on everything that's happened.
I would totally agree, but I just don't see that the Bengals operate kind of like
Yeah, no.
that. They've traded up a few times, uh, and I can't tell you the last time when, but they haven't done it in recent years, which is perfectly okay. That's just how the Bengals play because they always usually draft pretty decently in the later
Yeah.
rounds. Uh,
First round's not so much, especially not recently.
yeah, we're not great in the first round, but I think they are good at finding talent in the third, the fourth, fifth, sixth round. If you think
Absolutely.
if you think about it, Jesse Bates was a third round pick or second round, third round pick, one of the two.
Yeah. T. Higgins was second round, even though first pick of the second round, but still second round pick. And I think our scouting department doesn't get enough props for their mistakes in the first round. A lot of the times they I don't know if they see the first round pick as the swing pick to where they always pick the high upside, really low floor guy, and oftentimes it hits the floor. But I do think that once they get, and I noticed this year too, once they get to the second, third, fourth round, they pick the older guys with a higher floor but a lower ceiling. That it's like guaranteed talent that could develop, but if you get them to how they are, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Bengals primarily try and get guys with good experience. I mean, if you look about who they drafted in the last couple years. I mean, you got Amarius Mims, won 2 national championships. Got Jermaine Burton, won a national championship, I believe. Um,
He was in Georgia, I think, for a
yeah.
little bit.
Um, who? Gosh, you got to look at last year. Who they draft last year, first round.
That was
Chris.
Miles Murphy.
Yeah, Chris Jenkins last year.
Yeah,
Um,
won an Addy.
won a natty. So I mean, they're going after guys with that valuable championship experience, which is kind of showing um, what they're looking for. They expect to be up there, so they're trying to go for the guys that are gonna understand what it takes to get to play at the highest level.
Absolutely, and I think majority of our team knows that we are able to do that. And I think the chemistry with this team is off the charts as well. I think we have those guys that hold it together. Let's let's move on from X factors and let's go into breakout candidates. Guys that aren't there yet, but they really could be.
Yeah, so let's hear your first breakout candidate. I'm excited to hear yours.
My first breakout candidate is Von Bell, which sounds kind of stupid. Because he's getting up there in age. He's like what, 27, 28?
Let's look at this. I think he's a little. I think he's older, but I mean, football. He's 29.
He's 29. Yeah, I'm going to stick with my answer still. I think that the impact he had on the Bengals is so severely underrated, and this is because it doesn't show up in stats, but I think the role he's going to have this year, it's going to show up with the stats. I think he's going to get the sacks. I think he's going to get the interceptions. I think the role he's going to play as a mentor on and off the field, he's going to be a full-time starter. I think that his value is I think this is going to be the best year of his career by far, based on the way we're going to be playing our DBs, which is going to be him full-time strong safety. Occasionally on bigger packages, Jordan Battle will get in there, but his job is secure. He doesn't have to worry about it. And I think when he was playing with Jesse Bates, he was kind of the shadow to that. But it is his safety group. Like you could argue Geno Stone's better. He's older, he's more experienced, he's proven it more than 1 year than Geno Stone. And I think the players are going to respect that. And I think they're going to play through him.
Yeah, I would agree. And when he went to Carolina, I saw something that he was playing free safety, which is just not what he was in Cincinnati. He was rolling in the box, kind of showing pressures and backing out, kind of what Dax Hill did last year. Was rolled in the box, and I just don't think Dax Hill played that free safety role really well, or strong safety really well. I think Vaughn played that perfectly, and I think when he went to Carolina, he kind of regressed because he wasn't playing to his strengths, and I think that's what Lou Anarumo does best, and I think that's why Vaughn came back because he came back to someone who was going to play his strengths.
When do you think Lou gets a head coaching job? When do you think he gets that call?
I think once the Bengals defense comes a top 10 defense again. I mean, I remember he came second to Gannon, I believe his name was, who got the Cardinals job, Joseph Gannon, or
Yeah.
maybe. Uh, and I think honestly, as talking with different football coaches around the Northern Kentucky area, um, they tell me that maybe Lou Anarumo just doesn't interview well. Maybe he's just not an interviewer. So
Yeah.
I think in the next 5 years he could be an experimental head coach for sure.
Yeah.
But I think he's a lifelong coordinator.
I really hope so. I love him here. I think he's a perfect fit for us, especially with Zach Taylor's offensive mind being in that that Shanahan offense back in the Redskins is when he worked there. But I think all those guys, McVay, McDaniels, Taylor, Shanahan, O'Connell up in Minnesota, all those guys always have elite offenses. And but what you notice is that their players are elite. Now it's not by chance. TJ Hawkinson before he got to the Vikings was good. Got to the Vikings, he was fucking great. Brandon Ayuk developed into a stud in the 49ers system. Who else did I mention? Tyreek Hill, Tua, Jalen Waddle all developed into an offensive powerhouse under these guys. So you notice a similarity in this coaching staff pedigree that their offenses are elite and you just need to match it with that elite defensive mind, which is what the 49ers did, which is what the Vikings did last year. And you notice how these teams just rise, and rise. And I think it's just a match made in heaven with Lou here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed about all those guys that you named is that all those teams have great offenses, but what most of them are known for is their fantastic defenses.
Yeah,
So you bring in a guy who can get his full hands, both hands on the defense, and say, "I want this guy. I want this guy. He's going to do this. He's going to do that." Um, and as an offensive head coach, I don't think Zach Taylor really gives all the freedom. I'm sure he gives
yeah.
a lot of space, but I'm sure he has his hands on that offense a little bit more than a defensive coach would.
Absolutely. I think he likes being in control of the offense, which is totally fine. But I think him working because he did say he was working collaboratively, I think is the word,
Big
with
words.
Dan Pitcher, where he's gonna let Dan Pitcher take control of the offense. That's his quote. He's letting him take control of the offense for training camp, which I think is just code word for he's going to be the offensive coordinator now that I really don't think it's anything more than that. But I think they're going to work together to create this unique offense. This is not going to be the Bengals offense we're used to. It's going to be more 2021 esque, where airing it out these big plays and then dicing up the middle once they cover the big plays. It's not going to be like 2022 and 23 where it's a lot of screen passes and these short passes because we don't need to worry about. I mean, defenses. It's like waves of defenses where defenses figure out the air raid, so we go to these short passes. Did that for a couple of years. Now that they're figuring that out, we're going to go back to the air raid, back to our strength, and it just goes in waves.
Yeah, of course. And I think Joe Mixon played a big part in that, and I believe Joe Mixon was just so good at the short passes and things like that, the screen game. And that's kind of where he thrived. And so when the defenses started to figure out, this Bengals team is going to take the top off of you. Let's start working on these guys short range. I think that's what Zach Moss and Chase Brown are going to give us out of play action under center. I think we're going to be able to air it out a little bit more in these 12 personnel groups because we have that explosive run game. We have that short passing game that can go at any moment. We have those guys who can take the top off of you at any second.
Yeah, it's we have a dynamic offense. I mean, everyone can go up and catch a ball. Our entire team is just full of contested ball catchers. I mean, the only exception is like Charlie Jones, which I don't even know how much you'll see the offensive field. No offense to Charlie, great dude. I think in our TikTok, go check out the TikTok. Um, he thinks he's gonna get 5 touchdowns this year, which I think he can do it. Especially we're all gonna be by committee. I think we talked about um that this whole offense is by committee. It's offensive line by committee. It's wide receiver by committee. It's everything's by committee, and we got to keep those fresh legs rolling if we want to go all the way to New Orleans this year. Let's talk about some free agents to kind of fill those holes in. Um, for the guys that to add to these committee, what are some free agents that you want us
Yeah,
to add?
so I think a guy that I want to start out with because he lays dear and near in my heart is Samaje Perine. He's
Yeah,
kind of one of those guys who left the Cincinnati Bengals to go get the bag, to go get more touches, and it just didn't work. It's just not working. And I think he could get cut. And I think a lot of the media thinks he's going to be a cut candidate. Um, and if he does, I could see him giving uh Travion Williams some competition at the RB3 spot. I think Chase Brown's got that RB2 spot kind of locked down, but I think Samaje Perine could kind of come and help the pass protection when Zach Moss is winded.
Absolutely. And I think with that kind of running back mold that we're looking into, I think Dalvin Cook could be a candidate. Oh, I mean, we talk about those screens. No running back does a screen better than Dalvin Cook, or at least used to. I don't know what he's like now. Apparently not very good if he's just on the bench for all these teams he gets signed to. But just to kind of add age, which you never want to hear, but add age to these groups. I want that veteran presence, which is why I think Von Bell will be so important. Our team just keeps getting younger and younger and younger, which is great. But we need that mentorship, which is why I kind of want to branch into Xavier Howard. I think Xavier Howard could be a key piece to the secondary. Could instantly be wide receiver. Wide receiver. Could instantly be corner too, and give Dax Hill and DJ Turner time to develop their game as CB3. And if Xavier Howard is only here for a year, they're ready in time to figure out who's 2 and 3 and who's 3 and 2, and it gives them just time to really develop and focus on that. And I think corner help is definitely something we still need. I don't want to trust a first year corner in Dax Hill. He's pretty much a rookie again. And I don't want to trust DJ Turner, who kept getting burnt, rookie struggles. Put on weight though, I'm very optimistic, but I think Xavier Howard would be a huge help. He is willing. He's quoted saying he's willing to take a pay cut if it means playing for a contender, and he has connections with Zach Taylor. In I want to say, oh my God, hold on.
Let's also mention the fact that Lou Anarumo was in Miami when
It
Xavier
was
was.
Lou. That's what I meant. My bad.
Yeah, I think Zach actually was. I think with the Dolphins for a little bit.
That's what I was thought.
Yeah, so I think he was there too. I'm sure Xavier was giving him a hard time in practice. So I would agree with that. I think last year our secondary kind of killed the defense. It was hard. I mean, you got the safeties. Nick Scott, love the guy, took pictures with me, signed the football for me. He played terrible. He was not good for the Bengals. So I think that's what Xavier Howard and Von Bell can kind of do for this team. Is we're young. We're very, very young. Jordan Battle, Dax Hill, DJ Turner. They're young. They're very, very
You can't
young.
tell our entire secondary, other than Von Bell, is under 25, and Mike Hilton, of course.
Yeah. So I think he can offer that. I think he can offer that 1 year. Let's go win it all. You got the 20-something million in cap space. So why not? Let's go use it. Let's go use it. Let's go win it all this year. And maybe somebody loses a roster spot, but hey, who cares? We're gonna go win it all this year, and they're probably gonna come back.
Yeah, we can just sign them back. They'll get a ring anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, the dynamic of the team we're at now, to where most of the mocks of the power rankings have us outside of the top 5, some even out of the top 10. I've seen multiple where we're last in our division, and I think people are really starting to sleep on the Bengals again. And I know we had a down year, but because of injury, but we went 9-8 with a backup quarterback, and half of our team injured. Cam Taylor-Britt was out for 6 games. DJ Reader was out for majority of the season. I mean, our entire team, Jamar Chase missed time. T. Higgins missed time. T. Higgins had 600 yards. He had an awful season, even with his injuries. Everything went wrong, and we still finished with a winning season with the hardest schedule in the last 13 years. That schedule was.
Yeah, so 1,000%, I would agree with that. We did have a hard schedule, and people are sleeping on the Bengals, and it does feel like we're the underdog narrative again, and I hate that. We're 9-8. We had Jake Browning running the helm, which Jake Browning played pretty good for what we thought he was going to play. But people forget that we almost beat that Chiefs team that won the Super Bowl. And L'Jarius Sneed had the game of his life that game.
Yeah, he did.
So it's gonna be a big year, and I don't like that people are sleeping on the Bengals, because I think that this team can go as good as 13-4. And I think this team's fully capable of winning the Super Bowl. This team is a Super Bowl contender through and through. I don't think the Chiefs have anything on us. I think Joe has their number, and I think as long as we keep 9 upright and healthy, this team's gonna win the Super Bowl.
And as crazy as it is, we're still waiting for the Jamar Chase breakout year. As much as he's a star, he's only, I mean, his first year had 1,400 yards, then he had like 1,100, then he had maybe 1,200, and then last year he had a little over 1,000. We're still waiting for that 1,700 yard season from Jamar Chase. And
Yeah,
it could be this year. If we're fully healthy, I see a world where he goes 1,800, 12, 15 touchdowns.
yeah, I would agree with that, and I think honestly it's gonna be when T's gone.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's a Tom Brady clip that went viral with Colin Cowherd, where he talked about how hard it was to have two number one receivers or have a number one receiver who wants the ball.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to feed your guys, and maybe you're trying a little too hard, and it's hard to get your guys the ball when you want to get them the ball for sure. But it's kind of hard when you're trying to spread it to two guys who could be number one wide receivers anywhere they play.
Yeah, I noticed, I saw a stat about this. I don't know how much of it's true, but I did see the stat that I want 80 or 90% of Joe Burrow's interceptions in his entire career are targets to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. So it's him trying to get the ball to his playmakers that ends up killing us. And it's not I mean, you have the occasional, but yeah, I think trying to balance that, and we are a worse team without T. Higgins. Do not get it twisted. We are absolutely not as good of our ceiling is raised with T. Higgins. But there's also the less is more theory, the where the chemistry, the Jermaine Burton development, the Andre Yoshivas development, and if we do end up getting rid of T, which I think is inevitable, I hope it's in a form of a sign and trade where we get a second or a first. I think if a team's desperate enough, I think Green Bay is a candidate to try and trade their first round pick this year for T Higgins. I can see that being a draft night trade to where they'll have pick, let's say 26, 27. They'll get the second round of the playoffs, then lose. I mean, that's where we could draft his replacement, or I want us to draft Ollie Gordon the second next year. I don't know if you watch college
Is
football.
is that the guy that's out of Oklahoma State?
Yes, yes, it is. And I think he'd be an absolute stud in this offense. Or we could draft him and a wide receiver, or we could draft him and a guard. With those picks, but I think it's important that we get value out of T Higgins because we are better with him. But I don't think it's going to work out in the future.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I think T. Higgins is gone after this year, and I think they don't disrespectfully second year tag him. I think they just let him
Yeah.
walk, and because they'll get a compensation pick out of him, probably get a third round pick out of him, which is fine. Um, but I think T does raise the ceiling for us. But at some point, this team, honestly, I think it's gonna start with when Jamar Chase gets paid. I think when a defensive guy gets big money, I think it's gonna turn into a 4 year high school type window where you're gonna get guys for 4 years and they're gonna leave and they're gonna go sign somebody somewhere else and we're gonna bring in another guy.
Yeah. It's tough. It's like dealing with the new NIL money with it's like being a smaller school with trying to compete because we don't pay anyone ever. We're sitting here at $20 million in cap space, and T Higgins is making what that doesn't make sense to me that he's making 21 mil this year. We have 20 million in cap space. That's $40 million that could be going to T Higgins. Obviously, not all of it. Give him 20 because he's making 21. How much more does he want? 21 is a lot for I just it's just because Jamar's gonna want. I mean, how much did Justin get? 35 a year.
Yeah, so he'll probably want around
He's
that
gonna want
35 mark.
36.
Yeah. I think I saw something where it was like T didn't want the crazy high dollar amount. Like he wanted to sit in that 24-ish range, but he wanted the guarantees to go with it. And I just don't think the Bengals are willing to give a guarantee to a guy who's played 12 games,
Yeah.
13 games, 14, 16 games. He just hasn't been very consistent.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of early AJ Green, not to the same degree, but he couldn't stay on the field. But when he was there, he's this monster that could just go on top of you and just really grab it. And I think that is his that I think that's his ceiling as a player is AJ Green. Exact same play style, obviously out of Cincinnati, but the health is really scary.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a huge deal that that he's not getting the guaranteed money, and I think that's just solely because he just hasn't been consistent enough to stay on the field, and and you know what? He could go to a team like Tennessee. He could go to a team like no, not Miami, but you know what I mean,
Washington,
Washington.
New England.
New England, yeah, and go and play 16 games a year. But you know what? He's going to be the only guy. So it's just about what's important to these guys. Do they want the bag or do they want to win a ring?
And I think as fans, we overestimate the ability or overestimate how much players really care about winning. Obviously, I know players care about winning, but you see, when's the last time you saw a player take a significant pay cut so they can sign someone else?
The last guy I remember is Brady.
Yeah, it's really rare that these players, I mean, we talk about $10 million lost so you can try and get a ring. Obviously, it's your livelihood, it's your craft, but $10 million, that's an extra two generations that you're providing for in your family. And go get your money. Fuck it. I'm never gonna see $10 million in my life. So I'm not but I think we as fans would do it in a heartbeat because we're fans. But these players got into this league doing what they love, and they're gonna continue doing what they love. But I think winning is a bonus. And I'm not saying this for all players, but I definitely think that money is a lot more important than we think as fans.
Yeah, of course. And another thing I saw on the Dave Lapham show is that what he talked about, and it really started to get my brain moving about T, is about these guys have to make their money in a short amount of time. So they
Yeah.
only have about 10 to 12 years really to really reach into that bag and get their money for the rest of their lives and maybe the rest of their kids' lives.
Yeah, it's definitely overlooked in terms of fandom, the money aspect. And I think owners too, they want to make their money. It's just everyone wants to make money, and it's tough, especially if you have high egos or you value winning, but you also value money. It's like this battle, and I think we'll figure it out. I think New Orleans. I think we can try and punch our ticket there. I think we have the squad to do it. I think we could add a couple pieces, but I mean, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I got one more thing. I got a guy that's a long shot for us to sign.
Yeah,
Justin Simmons.
yeah. I mean, we have the 20 mil in cap space. So we could sign him for. I mean, he's 30, so we'd probably give him 15 mil a year, maybe for a year, 1 year deal. I'm trying to think where he would go. I mean, he could be there instead of Von Bell.
I could
Or
see him. I could see him. Maybe Geno Stone goes down with an injury, and he's still looking for a team. Come
yeah,
on
come on
over.
in. Because I think yeah, it's tough because he's such a good player. He's such a good player, but that position is just logjam for us now. I mean, we signed so many good safeties. I'd love to have him. I really would. It's just I don't know if you have a spot. It's such a luxury problem that I don't know if we have a spot for this top 10 player in his position.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Justin Simmons is 30 years old. We got a guy who had was second in the NFL last year for picks on a team friendly deal, and he's 25 years old with 4 or 5 years of college experience or NFL experience. Sign me up and played in the AFC North. Please sign
Yeah,
me up.
yeah. And you got his gloves. I
I
mean,
did.
how good this is going to be a stud.
Yeah, so he's turning into my favorite player. No, not one of my Burrow. Obviously, is my favorite. Let's not get that mistaken. But I think I like Gino. I think Gino is going to play that role of he's young, so he's going to be able to be relatable to these younger guys that are going to come in. But you know what? He's going to be that. I've been here for 5 years. I've been here for 6 years. Listen to me. I have a lot of good stuff to tell. And I think Geno Stone's the guy that I would love to get on here because not many people know
Oh,
his story.
absolutely.
Not many people know his story. He had to move. He moved across the country to go play at Iowa. Was a seventh round draft pick and fought every single day to not get cut. And then he turned around and he played. And he played his heart out.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud. And I remember him. He got a pick on us last year, didn't he? One of his interceptions was in our game, right?
Yeah, so I was taking videos. I'm a season ticket holder, and I was taking a video from the stands, and I thought we had a clear cut touchdown to T. Higgins, and there comes Geno Stone, just catches it. Right.
Absolute ball hawk.
Yeah.
And he's a perfect complement to Von Bell or Jordan Battle because Jordan Battle's literally just 5 years younger than Von Bell.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that's it for the first episode. Um, good length, good good listen for everybody. Drop your comments, questions, concerns, problems, anything you want. Comments. There's a poll down there. There's anything you can submit. There's my dog. He just occasionally wakes up sometimes. Um, yeah, like I said, listening to this on YouTube, go to Spotify, 5 stars, like it, follow it, turn on notifications. If you're on Spotify, go to YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, tell a friend to tell a friend. It helps us more than you know. Everything that you need is in the description. Brayden, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I think that was a good first episode. I think it was good length. Please give us your feedback. We really want to know. Who dey?
Uday. See y'all next time.